right, let's get the right screen up. There we go. All right, welcome to Mazda Media, ladies and gentlemen. It is Saturday. Let's get this a little bit adjusted. This new camera, this a little higher height here. Zoom level is not as extreme as it was on the other camera, but this is it's a little bit. My before the show started, I was trying to get so I want to access my camera as my camera, obviously, but this camera has audio capability, but I want my headset. So this system here, when I went to go start the show, was insisting on using the webcam here, the new webcam I got yesterday, as the audio. So I had to just switch that up. So my camera needs to be for the camera only. I want my microphone and headset for my show. This is the way I like it. I like the suppressed noise better than that, which is a nice feature. Which is a nice feature to have, to be able to have a camera like this that can do the obviously video work, but also the audio job as well, which is good. So this is now a 10 HD 1080p camera. Got this last night from Amazon, and then in 3 hours it was on my front step. So that's fantastic. So I'm very happy to be back. I'm a little bit more zoomed out. I tried to access this other hub to try to gain maybe more of a zoom, but that doesn't appear to be working just yet. So we'll see how that ends up going. But welcome to Mazda Media. Today's show is going to be a Turtleboy focused show. Tomorrow's show is going to be a Karen Reed focus show. We're going to be talking about Gretchen Voss tomorrow, but we're going to be talking about Turtleboy today. Turtleboy's news today, Karen Reed and Gretchen Voss news tomorrow. I think they talk quite a bit about Turtleboy. I have not read that article yet. I've heard bits and pieces of it, seen some excerpts of it, but we'll be covering that tomorrow at noon. We might have Mo Esk with us here today, potentially between now and 1 o'clock. Potentially, she's a little busy, but me and her have been talking about doing a show together for quite some time. We may have her on with us today as well. Excited to be here. It's a great day out there, obviously, a very nice sunny day, but I didn't do a show last weekend. I had some plans, a lot of busyness last weekend. So today is going to be a back-to-back weekend for me in terms of, or back-to-back days for shows. I snuck on last night and did a quick stream for about 30 minutes about LeBron James to talk about that. But yes, we have plenty to talk about today. Very interesting week. Of course, in the world of Turtleboy, started right off Monday morning in Boston with a mega motion. Attorney Mark Betterow flew in, obviously flew over the World Cup, came in and started to discuss the the mega motion first thing before the judge. So it's an interesting path. Everything that's gone on from all these things that have come about just because of what happened that night at 34 Fairview Road when John O'Keefe lost his life. Ever since, as we know, it's been hotly contested on the internet, with the majority of people believing in Karen Reed's innocence and a portion of people believing in Karen Reed's guilt, which has been a back and forth. But this story certainly escalated when a independent journalist by the name of Aidan Kearney began covering this case. And he had a very unique way of going about that, which was he would not only write about it, but he'd also do YouTube videos about it. Not only would he do that, but he would actually do, ask questions of people that were witnesses, house defendants, if you will, whether they were at a sports game, a restaurant, wherever. He would ask questions. And that's what really this all boils down to is we have seen this world expand just beyond a Karen Reed matter and now into an independent journalist matter over the years. And what's extremely notable here is that Karen Reed's accusations began in 2022 from a criminal perspective, but ended by 2025, even though I'd argue they should have ended in 2024. Kelsey Fitzsimmons, by comparison, her incident happened 13 months ago and was over, in under 10 months, roughly. But Aidan's charges here, as we speak, continue to be on the table. Some charges have been dismissed, but this matter continues to continue on. And it's wild to me that this goes as far back as 2023. A lot of this going back to a rolling rally, a lot of matters that have been continuing on here. So it's been a wild saga. It's been a very expansive saga. We've seen the Karen Reed movement itself shift from what was maybe the American Revolution to now more of a civil war. We've seen people that were once anti Karen Reed now free Karen Reed. People that may have been free Karen Reed are now anti Karen Reed. We've seen a lot happen. It's been like pro wrestling where alliances form, things shift. There's a lot of things going on out there right now and continuing on for the past year or two, where there's been a lot of that. But here on my show, my attitude has always been to focus on the justice, to stay as focused on the justice as best as I possibly can. That's the best I can do. It's the only job I can do. And that's why I started following Karen Reed when I read Turtleboy's article back in 2023, was to basically seek out justice, to fight a good fight, and do the best I could to help involve myself in a supporting role, to bring about attention, awareness, even later fundraising became a passion of mine in all of this. And that's been a great thing for me. It's been good to have a show that I can utilize to be positive in a manner that can help out people, help out Karen Reed, help out Kelsey Fitzsimmons, and help out Dr. Turtleboy. Now, there's a lot of questions online about people like myself. Why do you help Turtleboy? Why do you choose to help him? Haven't you heard what he says about people and things that go on about people on the internet? Yes, that's correct. Aidan Kearney has an opinion. In fact, every single person that I'm sure I support, whether that's Karen, Kelsey, and anybody down the road, I'm sure that they have their opinions, their views, and we look as human beings. The more we strip down people, we live in a society where if you're a Trump supporter or you're maybe like a Kamala Harris, Joe Biden supporter, if people find that out about you one way or the other, that can shift the line. If people think you're one view about one matter, that can always shift the lines. So my attitude has always been to not personalize this. In other words, Aidan Kearney's Aidan Kearney, Karen's Karen, people out there are people, and that's it. And that's the way I look at society. Somebody says to me, don't you get upset when, actors, celebrities, or whether for or against one politician state their views? I go, look, this is the way I focus on this. I want to watch a game. I want to watch a movie. That's what I'm here for. People are people. People are going to have varying opinions. I'm going to have varying opinions. Not only that, my opinions can shift at any time, right? That's the way life is. So I try to depersonalize a lot of things and just enjoy things as they are the best I can. Might be perceived as a wishy-washy way of doing things, but I feel like over time, as I've learned things, the best way to stay out of the divisiveness is to just not get wrapped up in it for myself. So my attitude has always been, I want to focus on justice, be focused on justice, and that's what I'm here for. Look, I have opinions. I don't come up here and state every opinion I have on my show. I just keep my shows focused on exactly what I feel needs to be talked about, which is what Aidan Kearney is going through today and what Karen Reed's going through tomorrow. And eventually we're going to do another fundraiser for Kelsey Fitzsimmons to help her out, as well as I know that there's a little bit of a campaign going on from her opposition as well right now, which is how things unfortunately happen, right? There's going to be competition. There's going to be opposition. That's how it's going to go. And that's how it's going to be. So my attitude from the get-go is, everyone out there has an opinion. Everyone out there has a viewpoint. I played basketball for a long time in my life, and I can tell you I didn't get along with every teammate. I had teammates I liked that didn't like me. I had teammates that maybe I liked two teammates, and they didn't like each other, and they would talk to me and say, hey, I don't like this teammate. So I'm very much aware of what goes on out there, but I am going to absolutely do everything I can to continue to fight, to just stay focused on the things that matter, which is not the beliefs and personal opinions of people, but the fight that they're in. And that's why I started following these cases. That's why I've started getting involved in these cases. And I said this back in January when I was very candid about this matter, and I'll say it again today. This is about justice. This is a fight. What they've done to Karen Reed is wrong. And the fact is, when you look at Aidan Kearney, an argument can be made. Well, did Aidan do this to himself? Should Aidan have stayed home? Should Aidan not have asked questions of people? Did Aidan just put himself in these circumstances? The fact is that if Aidan did do this, but it was another case. It was a case where, let's say, a person wasn't being framed. I'm sure that none of those charges would have ever come his way. The charges came his way because Aidan, it's just like Axel Foley when he goes to Beverly Hills in a Beverly Hills Cop movie. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he's getting thrown through glass windows. There's hits on him when he leaves the strip club in the second movie. People are firing away at him at Wonderworld in the third movie because he's getting involved with people that have a lot of power and want to shut people like him up, Axel Foley in those movies. And that's what's happened to Aidan Kearney here, because if Aidan Kearney had covered any other story, right, then these charges probably would have never happened. There wouldn't be people like Tully, other officers like Proctor, whomever out there having a vested interest in doing whatever they can to get this guy in prison after Christmas time. And no matter what happens out there, my attitude has always been, I'm a justice focused content creator. My support for Karen, Aidan, Kelsey is on justice terms. It's not on personal terms. It's to assist people that I feel that are being persecuted, people that I feel are being singled out. And that's how I look at all of this. And that's how I run my game. And that's how I run my show. And I can't sit there and say to myself, no matter how much, because again, the backlash for supporting Turtleboy is growing out there. It certainly is. There's no question about it. There's no question that coming out and doing a show is going to result in lost subscribers, personal attacks potentially. All that stuff happens. That's just the way it is. At the end of the day, the reason why I continue to step up, hit that live button, come on these shows is because, again, Aidan Kearney doesn't belong in jail for trying to report on a case about the Karen Read saga, about the Karen Read trial, about asking questions. Again, it goes back to the rolling rally. What was up with the rolling rally? If the rolling rally, because they treat the rolling rally like it's a notable event that happened in the 21st century, that is just the rolling rally is this terrible, horrible thing. And Aidan Kearney led a group of people into Canton and they did all these terrible things. Well, there's a problem with that story, is that if that was so bad and that was so terrible, it was like the golf tournament that's coming up August 3rd. If you're interested in that, get your tickets. The rolling rally was advertised. He was on his show. Aidan has a lot of viewers. Let's be honest. Aidan has a lot of viewers. His shows do not do, like my viewers right now. Thank you all for tuning in. But Aidan's viewers are more than probably 30, 40 times the amount of people that watch this show. Thousands of people tune in, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5, 6, 7. The guys probably had up to 11,000 live viewers on YouTube alone at a time. And he was talking about the rolling rally on that show before it actually happened. It's like anything in life. If that town, the police department knew about it in advance, knew what was going to happen, then they obviously could have had protocols in place to say, we're going to make sure these people and this, maybe a legal disbursement, I guess they'd call it. It's like when everybody was celebrating the Red Sox World Series on campus in 2004. Campus police showed up and said, they gave us 20 minutes and then said, okay, get out of the campus area and go back to your dorms. It's like that. If what you're doing is either unwanted, whatever, they're going to get you out of there. They're going to shut you down. They're going to stop it before it starts. And the fact of the matter is that rolling rally was known. Aidan was talking about it on his show. Numerous people were already kind of saying they were going to go. And people did assemble that day and roll through Canton in their motor vehicles on foot and made their thoughts known about what they thought about the Karen Read case that particular day. If this was illegal, if this was unlawful, then it was up to the Canton Police Department, who knew in advance that this should be stopped. I want you to think back to the Boston Marathon attack. If the only reason why the Boston Marathon attack happened was because nobody knew about it, right? No, the police weren't aware of it. Nobody was worried about it until after the incident happened. And I'm not by any chance measuring the rolling rally in terms of the Boston Marathon, in terms of violations or whatever there. What I am using that as a comparison is that if a known activity, whether it's a bank robbery, whether it's whatever, large assassination, whatever, and the police and authorities know about it in advance, it's up to them to stop something before it happens, if it in fact is a crime. This goes back to my Boston Marathon analogy. If the police had known about it, if they had known, they would have stopped it in advance. They would have never allowed that to transpire, right? They would have shut it down, because if they had not, people's lives were at stake, right? And that again was not something they knew about. So again, a crime is a crime at the end of the day, right? So if Aidan Kearney advertised the rolling rally and this was known, and this was considered to be a serious crime that could get him over 90 days in jail, why did the authorities in that town not put a stop to that before it happened? Because again, if this is as volatile and significant of a crime as they say it is, then they would have stepped in and they would have stopped it. But they did not. They allowed the rolling rally to continue, more than likely because they knew they could not stop it, or whatever. They allowed it to happen. But at the end of the day, if the police knew about it in advance, didn't stop it, then what is to be said of any violation, any whatever that would have happened? Why would that, you hear about it every single time they're in court. The rolling rally comes up, pretty often, fairly often. Cosgrove will talk about the rolling rally, the rolling rally, the rolling rally all the time. That will come up nonstop. And they always make it out to be an incident that this is terrible. What happened? This rolling rally. Oh my goodness. All these people assembled and this is horrible. Well, okay. But the police knew about it in advance. And if they knew about it in advance and it's as terrible as you say that it is, then the police should have shut it down and not allowed that to transpire. And if they didn't allow it to transpire, if they did allow it to transpire and it was allegedly a massive violation, you had perhaps witnesses in town that could have been harmed by this mentally or whatever, then the police should have shut that down then. But they did. And to me, if they didn't shut it down, it tells me one of two things. They didn't shut it down because it wasn't really a crime, or they didn't shut it down because they wanted to basically open up the floodgates, allow Turtleboy and company to roll in. I think they had hidden cameras around town, allow them to roll in, and then add this onto the board for Aidan. Because it seems like that's kind of what the plan was to calculate things against him, add things up, chalk things up against him, and make sure that there were a lot of charges. My personal thought about these charges is I look at this particular situation, and I don't think that Aidan has physically harmed anybody. And what I mean by that is this is not a murder case. This is not an assault case. This is not an O.J. Simpson trial, a Karen Reed trial, even a Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial where someone was shot, and it's a dispute over what happened. This is simply someone that's done journalism, asked questions, has basically been accused of witness intimidation. And it's amazing to me how long this case continues to drag on. And it's gone on for years and years. And it seems like it's going to go on even longer. And that's what's absolutely wild about this. And to my point, I feel like Tim Bradel and Mark Betterow are doing the best job that any attorney on the planet could possibly do. They know the case inside and out. They're presenting it before the judge. Mark Betterow is getting up there. Mark Betterow is speaking with a very good level of confidence in the case. He knows exactly what he's talking about, what he's discussing, what the facts are, what the matters are. And they're presenting that, very forthcomingly to the judge, and also presenting the fact that it seems like the DA's office had a very vested interest in all of this, that they seem to coordinate to various degrees with parties and not independently prosecute this particular case as per prosecution should go on. And Robin Jay's correct. It is persecution. It is persecution. And my attitude is, I once heard a statement that, they said that, never wish unfair things to people you don't like or people that whatever. And I look at Aidan and I see the things people say about him. And my attitude is this: I don't think, it's like if you grow up in school, you don't like a classmate, they don't like you. From the time you guys were in fifth grade, you didn't like each other. And if you saw them at the grocery market today, you still don't like them and they still don't like you, right? That doesn't mean that person I don't like or that person that doesn't like me is grounds for that person to suffer a horrible death, that person to go to jail, for me to root against that person to have bad things against them. You know what I mean? And that's a big thing in life. I know that's tough sometimes in life where, if you don't like somebody, you want the worst for them. I hope that person I don't like, or maybe that person doesn't like me, or they said things about me, I said about things about whatever, rooting for that person to have horrible things happen to them, to me is not the way I personally want to live my life, right? In other words, look, there's people out there on the internet that don't like me. I saw a meme about me and Kelsey Fitzsimmons the other day. Usually memes don't get under my skin. That one did for about 2 seconds. I just said, whatever. But it's again, people aren't going to like you, especially when you talk about this kind of stuff. Look, when you're in this world, the Karen Reed world, the Turtleboy world, even Kelsey's world, you're gonna get ripped apart. You're gonna get made fun of. You're gonna get stomped on. They're gonna say Maz is a total moron. He's the stupidest person of all time. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Whatever. They're gonna say the horrible things about you. But again, my attitude about life is to strip down the personality or personas of every single person and look at every single person at a blank value. And by a blank value, I mean that is the fact that what do human beings truly deserve? When I look at the Boston Marathon bombers, for example, those are an example of people that I think deserve the absolute wrath of fucking hell. Okay. Those guys, those two kids were the biggest pieces of shit that ever lived. And if I was a police officer, I probably would have been one of those officers that self-deployed to try to stop them. Because those guys ended the lives of children. They ended 4 lives and then an officer's life. They permanently crippled and physically impaired human beings' lives. These people were the all singing, all dancing hell of the earth. And it was a horrible incident. Like I would say people like that deserve wrath, deserve everything that comes to them. There's no question about that. But in reality, I look at other things, I scale it down, I strip it down, I look at people and I say, I don't think everyday people, regardless of their opinions, whatever their political views, deserve to have horrible things happen to them, and certainly not go to jail for 60 days. Obviously not. And there's people out there that don't like Kelsey that think that, oh, it was funny that she got shot. They think that Kelsey deserved to get shot. They think that Kelsey deserved to be in jail and should still be in jail. They believe these things. And it's just, again, not my belief system. Not my belief system, because I don't think that Karen, Aidan, Kelsey, and a lot of other people on this planet did things that deserve to be framed for murder, be thrown in jail for 60 days, to be shot and thrown in a corrections facility. I think that's more probably reserved for people like the Boston Marathon bombers. People that have done serious things to people and committed serious crimes that have permanently ended or permanently impaired people's lives at a physical level. And that's my ideology. In terms of Aidan Kearney, again, I personally think that, Aidan is who he is. He's a strong personality. He's a powerful personality. He has done an incredible job getting this story popularized and has done fantastic in that regard. And I definitely understand that over the times he's had people he's had conflicts with. And again, over time, some of those conflicts have grown to other people. I completely understand that. But at the end of the day, my attitude is this. It's just like with my sports teammates, coworkers. It's like, look, if you guys don't want to like each other, that's your choice. But I think at the end of the day, I think we should all agree that whether you support Turtleboy, you used to support Turtleboy, or even you don't, I ultimately think at the end of the day, the top argument should be that Aidan Kearney should not go to jail and should have never gone to jail in the first place for asking questions of people in a case, no different than any other journalist would. We've seen journalists go to Michael Proctor's house. We've seen other journalists ask questions of the McAlberts as they've walked out of court before just as well. And Aidan Kearney was asking questions, and they were threatened by those questions. And there was a lot of connections with the state police and Canton police, and these people wanted to shut this guy down. Again, getting back to my Axel Foley analogy earlier in this broadcast, they didn't like Axel Foley in Beverly Hills in any one of the movies that were ever made because the bad guys didn't like him. You know, they would throw him out of a window for asking questions. You know, Axel Foley asked questions about Victor Maitland, about his friend Michael Tandino. Got thrown out of a glass window for it. Got arrested for that. For got arrested for getting thrown out of a glass window. And those are the types of things that tend to happen to people like Aidan Kearney when you bark up trees where there's people there that have something to hide. And let's be very clear about this. It is undisputed that Karen Read was framed. There's no way, there's no information that can possibly be assembled that could ever convince me and the majority of people out there that Karen Read committed this crime, that Karen Read committed John O'Keefe. And not even knowing the parties, taking the names, the faces out of the equation and importing blank characters like you typically see in a Microdots video into those scenarios, the math just doesn't add up. You look at Arca, you look at La Posada, you look at Dr. Marie Russell, all these people got on the stand and made perfect sense. Aperture made no sense at all. Their reenactment was absolutely absurd. It was not to perfect scales in terms of whatever should have been accurately portraying that reenactment of that alleged incident. And you look at Arca, and they did do a scientific job. And therefore, the facts were on Aidan Kearney's side. He had a lot of information coming his way. He decided to get out there and ask questions. He decided to be a journalist the way he wanted to be a journalist. And there's no, at the end of the day, love him, hate him, or indifferent, there's no way around that fact that if Aidan Kearney had been asking other people questions in a totally different case, or there had been police officers that had no vested interest in shutting someone like him down, there's no witness intimidation charges here. Because let's be clear, Aidan Kearney has asked other people questions. There's videos of Aidan going way back where he would write articles about people, videos way back of Aidan asking people questions, attending events, you know, asking questions there. But yet there was no witness intimidation. There was no arrest. There was no Massachusetts State Police at his door in October 2023 to go right in his home and take photos of all kinds of stuff and seize his devices. There was none of that in these other cases. And there's been multiple people that are independent journalists, love them, hate them, or are different. There's multiple journalists out there over the years, independents, that have gone out there. They've asked questions of people, and there's been no witness intimidation. There's been charges. There's been no charges levied. There's been no be on the lookout, bolo alerts out on Christmas morning about an incident that happened a day or two later. And then the guy's arrested a day or two after Christmas. You know, this is not normal. Let's just be honest. This is not normal. And I was watching Jack Reacher, a movie I've talked about quite a bit on this show. It was, you know, Paramount plays a lot of Tom Cruise movies. You know, Top Gun, Mission Impossible, Jack Reacher movies are on all the time on Paramount. And there was a scene in that movie I had never really heard before. I've watched the movie many times, but maybe I've never picked up on it, or maybe it picked up in my head more during that viewing the other night. I think it was Thursday or Friday. I think it was Thursday. And Tom Cruise calls up Rosamund Pike, an actress from, hey, good to see you, Olivia. Rosamund Pike, who was a Bond girl in Die Another Day. And he says, he goes, if you believe they could do this to Bard was the guy that was set up for the assassination of multiple people in the Pittsburgh area at the beginning of the movie. There was a sniper attack and about 6 to 8 people get picked off at the beginning of the movie. And in that movie, Tom Cruise shows up thinking that this guy Bard did it because he knew the guy back from the military days and knew the guy went on a killing mission. And then later in his future, he comes to Pittsburgh to try to bury Bard and put him down for the count because he knows that Bard probably did it again, this time in the public area in Pittsburgh, only to find out as the investigation begins to unfold that Bard didn't do this. In fact, Bard was singled out and framed for this assassination. And it was actually another group of people that were tied into a construction company. And they were out to actually assassinate the woman that was going to secure basically a loan from the bank to keep that business after her husband died in order. So as Tom Cruise starts to review this matter, he starts to realize this guy that he came to town for thinking was again assassinating people. Come to find out as he learns the details, this is actually an immaculate frame job or a major frame job in the works here. And then as time goes on, as Tom Cruise starts to investigate this, the people that he was initially working with at the beginning that welcome him because he's trying to take down Bard too, and that's what they want because they're trying to frame Bard, they start to realize Tom Cruise is getting wise to all this. And one of that's an age-old question. Why do you think that he paid for parking? He was going to shoot 6 to 9 people, 10 people in public. Why would he pay for parking? And that was the one piece of evidence that didn't make sense to Jack Reacher, Tom Cruise in that movie. Why do you think he paid for parking? And when I looked at the Karen Reed case, I always had that why did you pay for parking moment, which was, what do you think Karen returned to the crime scene? Oh, she didn't do it. Why do you think she returned to the crime scene? I always kind of plugged that thought into that scene and kind of reenacted it in my head. Why do you think that Karen Reed returned to the crime scene? Why would she do that? If she did it, don't you think she would have just hidden her house and never come out? That's just how I look at this particular situation. It never made sense to me that she would go back. If she did it, that she would go back. And it's the same thing with Bard and Jack Reacher. Why do you think he paid for parking? It didn't make any sense. Because you don't pay for parking if you're going to do that assassination. No, they start to learn at this particular point. Tom Cruise is getting wise to this whole situation. And when he gets wise to this situation, he's at a bar and he's approached by a girl that's backed up by a bunch of guys that leads to a street fight that leads to Jack Reacher's arrest. And as soon as that fight ends, the cops show up on the spot to pick him up and put him in jail. And that's when things start to change. All of a sudden, Jack Reacher goes from someone trying to investigate to now someone facing the very same sets of circumstances that Bard did, which was Bard was framed for murders he did not commit. And when Jack Reacher started to investigate that, and Jack Reacher was perceived as a threat, they went after Jack Reacher too, and then he had to go on the run in that movie. And he makes a call. This is the scene I'm getting back to that I wanted to talk about. He makes a call to Rosamund Pike, and she's not sure about what to believe about Tom Cruise's character at this point. And he says to her on the phone very clearly, if you believe that they can do this to Bard, then you have to believe that they can do this to me. Okay? Because if they can frame Bard, they can frame Jack Reacher too. And that's the number one reason why people have asked me, why won't you move off the Aidan thing? Because I'm not focused on anything else about, I'm not, people's personal lives, opinions. This is not the stuff I come here that I'm concerned about. Okay. I'm not concerned about any of the other stuff. I'm concerned about the stuff that's going on in the state of Massachusetts right now. What's happening to Karen Reed? What's happening to Kelsey Fitzsimmons? What's happening to Aidan Kearney? That these people are being persecuted. No matter how you look at it, at the end of the day, we're here because these people are being persecuted. These people are being singled out. And again, getting back to the movie Jack Reacher, he says to her on the phone, Rosamund Pike, if you believe they can do this to Bard, then you must believe that they can do this to me. And when Aidan Kearney started to investigate, and I was on the fundraiser during the segment with David Unetti and Melanie Little, and as I was saying it, I was actually more so when I played it back, I watched it back and I looked at David Unetti the entire time. And I made that comment because I knew David Unetti already knew this, but I wanted to hear David Unetti and see him react to that. Because I know Aidan's thoughts on it. I know Melanie's thoughts. I think they've heard me say it before. But David Unetti sat there exactly because David Unetti knows when he's fighting for Karen Reed's innocence, And then someone like Aidan Kearney's going out there, and all of a sudden the dominoes are falling against him now. The deck is starting to stack against him, whatever term you want to use. It's like what we've been saying has been happening to Karen in 2022, and right along is now happening to Aidan Kearney right now as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. And those are the facts. Those are the facts. Because again, as Tom Cruise said in Jack Reacher, if you believe they could do this to Bard, you must believe that they can do this to me. Case in point. And when that was happening to Aidan Kearney in 2023, charges are coming down. The same cops, this Tully, Yuri, these are the same cops. There's security footage of those officers at Karen Reed's house, arresting her, showing back up at her house. They're at Aidan's house too. It's clear as day. And that's the heart of Mazda Media, ladies and gentlemen. When I run this show, is it's about justice. It's about, look, and I've said this about Kelsey Fitzsimmons numerous times on my show. My attitude is not to involve or interject my life, my concerns into the life of Kelsey Fitzsimmons outside of the parameters of the case that she's going through, of the situation she's going through. My goal is to help out a person that I believe was unfairly treated, and give them the best opportunity to walk through the door of life, to improve their life, to walk through a situation that made their life worse, and hopefully we can be of some kind of assistance to make their life a little bit better. And if raising, what is it, $60,000 over 18 or 19 fundraisers helps out Kelsey Fitzsimmons, we can't fix her life, but we can damn sure help her. You know, the Avengers. We can't save the world, but we damn sure will avenge it, right? To quote Tony Stark. It's the same thing here. It's the same game. And that's been my game from day number one. How can I help people out? How can I fight for these people? How can I fight alongside people? Fight along you, fight along everybody to help the truth and put people in a better set of circumstances than what they were before this whole thing started. That's my attitude. That's my belief. That is my ideology through and through. And that's the way I go. And that's been my entire game. And whether my success level, and I don't mean success as in personal success of the show, I mean success in helping people is high, low, or different. It doesn't matter. If I'm able to contribute, if I'm able to help in some way, that's what I'm here to do. And that's what I want to do. Thank you so much, Olivia Nile. Thank you so much, Allison Wonderland, everybody else that's commenting here. I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. And that's that. Like I said, I'm not here for, my opinions of people are not conditional in terms of what their beliefs are, what their political affiliations are, whatever they believe in their life, whether they're an Xbox person or they're a PlayStation person, whether they hate chicken wings, perhaps, right? To add some comedy into this conversation, to loosen up a little bit. If someone hates chicken wings, if Kelsey or someone or Karen or Aidan says, I don't like chicken wings. Oh, gee, well, I'm not going to support them anymore. My God, you hear what they said? They don't like chicken. I'm out. It's just not, that's just not where I'm going with this. My attitude is, this is about justice. I personally feel these people have been persecuted at the end of the day. And I look at Mark Betterow. Mark Betterow has been throughout all of this, a very fantastic person and has been absolutely locked in and focused on what's going on with Karen, what's going on with Aidan. He's been on numerous Kelsey Fitzsimmons fundraisers. This is a guy that could have sat at home in New York, sorry, and not got involved. But there he is involved with Aidan, and Linda as well from Justice Served, also helping out with the New Jersey incident situation as well. Mark Betterow had a significant amount of talent, a significant amount of ability. And I've said this to Mark Betterow. I relate to Mark from a sports perspective in terms of, as an athlete, I know the pain of watching a game from the audience and not being able to actually play in that game. It bothers me to sometimes watch a Celtics game in person and not have the physical ability to play at the NBA level. I can play at a lower college level, but not at the NBA level, and it's just, it's painful because at the end of the day, in your mind, in your heart, everything in your soul, I'm a basketball player, or I was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, And it's tough. And for Mark Betterow, who's watching a case like this, whether it's Karen or Aidan or whatever, you know that he sits there and it's like, I have this ability, I have this knowledge. It's like, how can you, how can you not? Because I always used to be Mark, join the defense teams, join the defense teams. You got to be on the defense teams. And, he tried with the Karen Reed thing, but Auntie Bev kind of shut that down, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, God took care of it. Karen had the coverage she needed in terms of attorneys. And then again, Mark's now over here able to serve Aidan Kearney, who we actually took on before Karen, but is able to help out Aidan in this situation. Because again, at the end of the day, whether you're a lawyer for Aidan or whether you're a lawyer for Karen, ultimately you're up against the same forces. You're up against the same parties. There's some obviously civil suits out there that involve Karen and Aidan. And it goes back and forth. It goes both ways. And it's a lockdown situation. It truly is. It's a very intense situation. It's jam-packed with a lot of stuff. It's no question going to go on for, my goodness, we're probably still going to be talking about this stuff for the rest of the decade. Basically the date in Terminator 2 is going to come and go in 2029 by the time this thing's over. Quick water break. But yeah, that's really what I think it all boils down to at the end of the day is my attitude has always been, I'm focused on the justice, because that to me is what's going on here. Is that you mean to tell me Aidan Kearney can't cover this case and not be arrested over this? So we have a woman that was arrested who was accused of a crime that she wasn't didn't commit. And I get that sometimes happens. Like, I understand in society, there are people that have been accused of crimes they didn't commit. Sometimes it's a frame job. A lot of times it's not. Totally get that. So Karen being in the situation, look at Kelsey, same thing. Basically persecuted for a crime she didn't commit. Same situation. It happens to a lot of people in this country. It's unfortunate. But that's why we fight for them, right? To help out. Then you look back at Aidan and you ask yourself, well, I can sometimes understand people getting accused of crimes they didn't commit. Like, I understand that what happened to Karen or Kelsey does happen across our country, that there are people in prison and jail that have been for quite some time, historically, as well as in the future, that have been arrested and placed in prison for decades on end for crimes they never committed. And I think there was a guy released from prison a year in the past year, actually, that I think spent 30 years in prison. I think new evidence came out that proved the guy never did it. So that's the reality of our society. And I can definitely sit there and say, a Karen Reed case, a Kelsey case, while bothersome, is certainly not uncommon. Even something like Sandra Birchmore, where there's a falsification of what happened to her. I understand that those situations happen quite a bit in our country. And quite honestly, probably a lot of the time, there's never any kind of awareness to that reality, that someone like Sandra Birchmore was murdered. Someone like Karen was framed. Someone like Kelsey was framed. I understand there's a big reality out there where there's other people that sit there in our prison systems and jail systems and are like, I was a Karen, I was a Kelsey, or there's parents out there like, my daughter was a Sandra Birchmore and we never got justice. And maybe unbeknownst to them, something even more sinister behind the scenes than the murder itself, in addition to the murder itself, happened that they weren't aware, and those are the things that absolutely happen here. Moisk is going to be joining us here momentarily as we continue this conversation. I'm just going to wait for her to, she'll just unmute here, I think, in a moment. But those are the things that happen. And it's crazy and it's wild. It's outrageous. And, but again, I can't fathom this happening to journalists, though. Usually journalists, independent, or whether you're CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, ABC News, Fox News, Boston 25 News, local news, Channel 4, Channel 5. I can't imagine this happening to reporters who are outside of the case. And now all of a sudden, Aidan Kearney is now hit with charges, and all of a sudden, ending up in jail and at risk, at stake here is significant situations that could place him at risk for being in jail in the future. My personal bet is I think he's going to get acquitted of all the charges. I think some charges may or may not get dropped. We'll see, but I think they can beat these charges. I'm just waiting for Moesk to come on camera. We'll see when she's ready. She'll flag me down here in a moment. But yeah, thank you so much, Heather. Have a great afternoon. I'm going to get to some messages here. BB King, D8P. Thank you for being the real deal, staying focused above the drama. You are welcome, BB King. Thank you so much. And then we got Phil, 400 jewels and an eagle. I guess I have gifts now, and I have no clue what those gifts mean. So I thank you for the gifts, but I don't have any clue what they mean. I guess I have things here I don't understand. That's going on here. Yeah, I heard about let me just see if I can add Mo to the stage here. Mo, you still checking in here? Do you need another moment?
Yeah, because I don't know if you can hear me, but you know, I have the camera on, but I was gonna just pop out and then pop back in and see if
Sure.
it worked. If you
Sure, no problem at all. All right, we'll let you back in a moment there, Mo. All right, no problem at all. All right, so she'll be back with us in a moment. I had some technical difficulties as well. I have a new camera now in 1080p, and my camera has audio capability, so it was overriding the basically my headset and mic here, which was kind of crazy. So it's now able to come on. You know, I had to go out, reset it, make sure this was for audio and mic, and then make sure the camera obviously is for camera only. So, all right. So she's going to come back with us in just a moment here, and we should be good to go. Jen Fisher's in the house. I see Emily C is in the house. Yeah, I heard just a little bit about the Gretchen Voss, Emily C matter. And I did see a clip of Emily C's reaction and response to that. Emily obviously had some very strong reaction, as you'd imagine. But Emily's very passionate, and she's like me. We don't swear often, but when we do, it's usually because we got something to say pretty significantly. So, yes, that's definitely for sure. So, but yeah, you don't expect, like, you know, that's one of the things that kind of raised an eyebrow for me as it pertained to Aidan's arrests and Aidan's charges. Is you normally don't see someone that's functioning under journalism arrested, charged, anything like that happens. You usually don't see that happen ever. I mean, it's like if you saw a local reporter from your local news station, you know, asking a question, and it's like, you know, someone from Channel 4 asked the wrong question. You know, that's witness intimidation. Now there has to be a line between that. You know, I definitely think so. There's no question about that. Thank you so much, Holly. Happy Saturday to you as well. I might have to turn my fan up a little bit. I'm starting to kind of, yeah. We're going to level 2 on my cooling tower. I got my cooling tower to the right of me here. Sometimes it makes my nose a little itchy, but not today. The nose is an issue. But yeah, again, I just feel like Moesk is back. Let's see what we got here. Just trying to go back on camera. We are waiting for her. Let's see what we got. Oh, there she is. All right, give me a thumbs up when you're ready. I'll take that as a yes. There you are. What's going on?
Hello. Thanks for having me on, Maza.
You're welcome. Do we like the zoom in or do we like the distance zoom? I kind of like the zoom in. It's better. There we go.
Whatever works.
Get an alien spaceship back there. It looks like it's abducting 4 people.
Yes. It's abducted the sanity. I don't know. This whole thing is just wild.
It is.
To me. And it's like, you know, I was like crying about it yesterday, like, you know, as if it's, you know, I'm in it or something, but it, you know, it just should matter to everybody, like what's happening here. And the lengths that people are going to punish someone for exercising their First Amendment rights and for exposing corruption. I mean, this is all to silence Aidan. And it's just really sad. It's really a sad reflection on our judicial system. And I don't know, everybody should care about it, whether you like Aidan or you don't like Aidan. These are like fundamental constitutional questions. And it's just sad to watch what's happened and what's continuing to happen, and every day what he has to deal with. So I hope everybody is up in arms about it, and you should be upset about it. You know, these aren't just Massachusetts rights. These aren't just Aidan's rights. These are all of our rights. And like, you know, what precedent does it set? It's like people aren't going to question their government anymore because they're afraid of being punished for it, being jailed for it. It's just it's such a dangerous, you know, precedent. So I hope that everybody understands that and gets behind, you know, this cause.
Yeah, 100%. Now, how long ago did you find out about this case? The Karen Reed case and the Aidan case? Yeah, collaboratively.
Well, Karen Reed, I found out initially we heard about it on the news. So I'm originally from Massachusetts. My cousin was a big Turtleboy fan before. So he's the one that ultimately like told me about Turtleboy. I didn't know about Aidan until it was like after the rolling rally, I think is when my cousin told me about Aidan. But before that, when it was you know, on the news, no one would have thought at that time anything. You just think, oh well, okay, it's a pretty girl, and it was a cop, so like that's why this was a news story. Like nobody, you just never think anything else of it, you know. And you know, it was obviously through Aidan's reporting. I didn't know about him back in April when he started reporting on it, so it was more the end of the summer, beginning of whenever it was. I guess that was July. Was the rolling rally, and that's kind of how I followed it. But my family, my friends up there are all very, very hard Karen Reed, you know, supporters. And, you know, even my mom before the first trial is like, that kid did it, you know, like they all knew that, you know, that guy, he's bad news. I'm like, so
yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know you've been or anything. Like I watched the trials through the first trial I watched just like on like court TV, and I would have to catch up because I work during the day. You know, so I'd be a little bit behind, but I'd you know, catch up over the weekends, and they would have days off. And then the second trial, that's when I learned of Melanie, and
yep,
mostly watched there, and I watched some Lawyer, you know, highlights, but yeah.
That's awesome. And you've been an attorney for quite a while as well. Are you typically a practicing criminal defense attorney, or attorney that just is like, I love law and this case is driving me crazy?
Yeah, no, I'm not a criminal defense attorney. I'm a civil attorney in torts, negligence, like bodily injury. You know, the ambulance chaser attorneys. So I do civil litigation. You know, sometimes there are some, like, you know, you'll have a case that there's a criminal case that you're on the civil side, so you get you're going to hearings and stuff, but I would in no way say I'm any kind of expert on criminal law. I do love the law, but my specialty is, so for example, in like the defamation case, like that's the type of, you know, civil cases like that I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. I mean, defamation, civil, because I mean that's I mean, having that level of expertise, considering what, I mean, this has really grown from, you know, the civil matter is really taking the forefront for the most part. Aidan's charges and what he's up against, you know, in the criminal court aside, you now have these civil suits that are coming up, and you have all these matters with, you know, civil suits coming at Karen, coming at Aidan collaboratively, Karen, you know, filing civil suits, vice versa. It's really all over the place right now. It's really a true battlefield now. This is where really it's these suits that are being filed are basically, it's like darts all over the place in terms of what's going on. So it's definitely great to have someone like yourself that has that background, that knowledge in these matters to give their opinion of this. And just tell me some of your, I'll just leave it up to you, open forum here. Just what some of your thoughts are about some of these civil suits. And one of the ones that's most intriguing to me is the McAlberts and their civil suit that they filed back against Karen and Aidan.
It's like, you know, I know some people have said, you know, like, how can we, you know, keeping track of all these like different suits, we don't really know what's going on, but it really, they all kind of, I mean, it comes back to the same issue. And, it all originally stems from Karen's case. And, they tried to convict Karen twice. And obviously they don't like that, the powers that be don't like that. So it's like, okay, how can we, you know, they're just mad about it, and they're mad that Aidan, um, you know, uh, uncovered the things that they wanted kept in the dark, and now are punishing them for it and punishing Karen for it. Like, for example, even the phone thing. It's like you have Cosgrove coming in there trying to, arguing that he still needs her phone as if he's still investigating, her for additional charges. And then you have, the House defendants that, they obviously hate Aiden, and they, I don't believe that those House defendants, but I think they know what happened. They know it wasn't Karen. I mean, it's insane that they plead in their complaint that Karen knew knew these things are false because she knew she did it. I mean, that's the craziest thing to. Good luck proving that.
Yeah.
But it's and they're all related to one another. They want to silence Aiden, and they want to punish Aiden, and silence Karen and punish Karen.
Yeah.
All for, they wanted this up. What did they say at the beginning in the text? This is going to be bing bing done. Cops aren't getting anything. She better not fight it, and she did. And it's like, this is the consequences of that. And they're just, they all relate to one another. That the defamation suit is like, I just, I think that pile was awesome. We worth every penny in arguing that motion. And I don't know if they are going to appeal it. I imagine. But I was sad. You never think, as a litigation attorney, motions to dismiss for a judge just to throw out a whole case. Like, they'd rather punt it to a jury. Anyway, so it's hard to win. But in this particular case, so it's like, you're not really expecting to, okay, yep, it's all going to be thrown out on this anti-slap motion. But what was sad was, like, reading the ruling, and what this judge is interpreting, petitioning the government to be. And it's just, saying that there is no nexus between him going to a lacrosse game and calling them this.
Right.
It's not related to Karen's case. Like, how can you say that that's not related? And in court, when the judge asked, how could this rolling rally that's not, on the courthouse steps, basically, be
Yeah.
petitioned? Like, that's exactly a peaceful protest. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that the definition of what petitioning the government is? Like,
Yeah.
is a peaceful protest? Like, so that just the questions that the judge was even asking it's just infuriating that we like, this is what judges think, and it's just scary.
It's what bothers me too is that I think, like, another thing that bothers me about this is the, getting back to the charges against Aiden in terms of witness intimidation, all that, is how long this has really gone on for in comparison to, like, Kelsey's trial, Karen's trial. I made a post about this earlier in the week. 2022 was the beginning for Karen from the criminal case on, in terms of, like, she's accused. And then, it goes to trial. It should have ended in 2024. It was basically over in 3 years. Here you have Aidan, who was basically initially arrested in 2023. And now we're 5 months, how far are we away here? About 5 or 6 months away from, really 5 months away from 2027. This has been a pretty elongated process here. I feel like, the trial is not till December, and if that trial is not over, if that's an early December start, it's 2 weeks. Maybe it's over by the 20th, 15th, 20th, somewhere in there. But then you never know if it's going to get delayed. And my concern is this thing has just gone on too long. It's like, my attitude's always about both sides know what they know, get to the trial. I just feel like the prosecution has elongated this for years on end to really burn Aiden's wallet and try to keep him on the line as long as possible. That's just the impression I've gotten from all of this.
Yeah, and like that goes into even like, I know it's not the Commonwealth that, filed the civil suits, but some of the point of anti-SLAPP is like they're trying to silence people through this strategic litigation. And it's to do just that. Like they just want to wear them out and they want them to be quiet. This is going to cost them money. So that's why, there are certain the anti-SLAPP laws. But yeah, and what the delays and stuff, it's crazy to see in all these cases, even starting from in Karen's case, these civil cases, the different discovery disputes. I would always be, I'm like, they don't have like deadlines in Massachusetts,
Right.
because if you go and
Right.
you're late on the discovery, you go in and then they have some excuse, and okay, yeah, judge, this is why I need more time to do it. Okay, the judge was like, all right, you got 20 more days. You go back in the next time and you get an order of when it's the date that it's due. Then you go, if you don't do it, you get sanctioned. The judge gets mad. You can get your case dismissed. You can get monetary sanctions. You can be held in contempt for disobeying court orders. But it's like they just let him. He's like, he's like, oh, still working on it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it'll be soon. And then the judge is just like, all right, come back in 2 months. We'll see where you're at. Like,
Yep.
there's no, you just do whatever you want if you're on the prosecution side, of course, or plaintiff side, but they seem to
That drives
be.
me insane. That drives me insane because it's the same, there's been, and that's happened in the Karen Reed case, as people remember as well. Before even the first trial, it was David Yannetti, Alan Jackson, Eliza Little in court, hearing after hearing and saying, we still haven't got this yet from the prosecution. We're still asking Adam Lally for this. And what was wild was that whole first trial went by, and I think they were even leading up to the second trial, and there were some things they still were citing. We asked for this a year or two ago. We still haven't got it yet. And again, a lot of times Judge Beverly Cannoni would cite back and say, well, how much time do you think you'll need? It's okay. Well, I'll give you add 2 weeks onto that and I'll give you more time. Instead of setting strict deadlines, instead of saying, hey, look, we're getting this case moving forward. That's what I kind of liked about Judge Gilday early on, even though my opinions of him have really kind of changed, obviously, was I like the fact that he was kind of getting things organized and set, moving things along. And it kind of felt like over time, he's kind of changed, but I don't like that in a courtroom. I think that, just like school, when you're in school, your paper is due on this day, your tests are due on this day. There's no exceptions. And if you turn it in late, there, if you had an A on your paper, it's now a B. There's a consequence for lack of being on time. And I don't, like, to your point, I don't see that a lot in these cases. Same thing with Cosgrove. It's, well, I don't have this and I don't have that yet, Your Honor, but Aidan Kearney's bad. It's like, if this guy's as horrible as you're saying, there's no reason why you guys shouldn't have everything you need. There's no reason why, if there's anything the defense is still waiting on, that you haven't turned over everything. Because again, if Aidan Kearney is as guilty as you say he is, then you guys really want to fast track this thing, don't you? You want to say, oh, Aidan Kearney's a serious threat. We need to get this thing fast tracked to trial. We can't wait. And it seems like in Karen Reed's case and in Aidan's cases, the defense are on board. They're ready to rock. They're ready to go. And then it's the prosecution that are twiddling their toes all the time, dragging things out, not turning things over, and ultimately being ridiculous. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like that's something I would see. Just like I said, it's like I don't know other states, but other lawyers that I know in other states are, that same. It's just like baffling to me. I'm like, I just don't, that the whole no deadlines. I mean, and there's stuff that's coming out now through like FOIA requests that like were never turned
Right.
over in trial one that they asked for in trial one.
Right.
Like we're in
Right.
those, all of a sudden they just appear. Um, and they'll turn them over to just regular citizens, but you couldn't find them, or it was too hard to find them in in these other, Karen's case or in Aiden's cases. It's just, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be like the accountability that we should want out of our prosecutors, out of that the Commonwealth has an accountability to
Yeah.
its citizens. And that's the whole, goes back into the whole idea of, um, uh, us being able to ask questions and them trying to silence them. Like they don't want us to have information. They don't want them to have the evidence. They want to delay it as much as possible. It's insane.
I mean, like, to your point, you never seen anything like this in your state at all in terms of how rules are, regulations are, deadlines are. It's pretty by the book and on time.
Yeah, well, of course,
Unlike
there's
Massachusetts.
there's different delay and depends on different, some judges are stricter than others, but yeah, I've never seen anything like this. And I would just be like, what? They're not putting they're just letting them do whatever they want. It's very unique to what, to Massachusetts. And it's like, that's the other sad part. It's like, this is where our country was founded,
Sure. Right.
And it's like, these are the people that threw the tea off are the Aidens of that time,
Right.
and we wouldn't, if it wasn't for people standing up to the government and what they thought was unjust, um, where would we be? We'd still be ruled by England. I mean, it's like, that's why they were so passionate about making the Bill of Rights, to say what the government can't do. We have a constitution that's creating the government. This is what the government can do, and the powers are separated like this. And now we got to make something that says what they cannot do, and these are our rights that are unalienable rights as citizens of this country, God-given rights that and the first one, we know, obviously, is the First Amendment. And all of this, I think, this falls under it. And it's the other point is, and they, he's being charged for intimidating witnesses. So there's certain elements to the 13A and 13B, the rolling rally charges versus like the witness intimidation ones, like picketing ones.
Right.
But like that intent, that intent is, has to be related to a proceeding, right? Because they're either witness, they're a public official. There needs to be some kind of proceeding to get those, because it's witness intimidation or picketing to try to influence a witness in a proceeding. So then we go over to the civil case and the defamation case, and it's like, obviously it's different because it's civil. It's not the Commonwealth argument. But then in that case, they're like, this has nothing to do with the proceeding. This is just a private thing. This can't be called petitioning the government. So how do those two things, it can't be both,
Right. Crazy. I just like I said, it was the Karen Reed case caught my attention, but it was what kind of happened to Turtleboy over the course of time that was, for me, very validating of what we were thinking about what was happening to Karen Reed, what our theories were. And you see this happening, and it's like, again, you see Tully, you see Yuri, they're over his house in October, putting him in custody, all of that stuff. And it was just absolutely outrageous. And to me, another thing I wanted to ask you, getting back to the rolling rally, was your thoughts on the fact that they knew about that in advance, the Canton Police Department, but did nothing to stop it. What were your thoughts on that?
Because they didn't think it was a crime. So, because it isn't, because it's petitioning the government. And, and one of the things with that, you also, the only person that was actually home that day was Julie Nagel. So like, there's an element that they need to like be there when you're doing this. So it's like, I don't get why those are even still in it, because they weren't even home. But yes, the police, and there were certain things that they cite to in their bill of particulars, like when the famous thing they say now, and he's like, we're here to influence the jury. He's like outside of Morrissey was having some kind of event or whatever in Quincy, and
Yes.
there's like police there, like, so, and then they're citing that into like, yeah, if the police thought this was a crime, they wouldn't they just arrest him there? Nope, they knew it was a peaceful protest. And how many times that he says in different videos before then, during, and after, and tells people this is going to be a peaceful protest, and he makes his intent very well known. And it's like they just ignore it. It's just, I don't know. It's so infuriating. But I mean, what's crazier about the original charges is like Yuri is, I mean, I know that's dismissed now, but he had to come up and say, he was doing witness intimidation, like for that one snippet when he's like getting into the car outside court. I mean, it's just crazy. They're like weaponizing this very vague statute. Like, how can we get them? How can we, okay, we lost trace with Karen. What can we do? We're going to keep her phone. Maybe we can get her for witness intimidation. All right, house offense. You're going to sue her. And then, the wrongful death case, like, that's common that you'll have the murder case, and then there's a civil corresponding, civil case. So that's not crazy that they have that. I mean, some of the allegations in that are crazy, but the rest of them, it's just like, it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mo, I just have to step away for just.
Oh, I couldn't hear you now. Maybe it's mine. You're muted, I think.
Okay, let's try to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I just gotta say I had to step away. I have to step away for just a few minutes. Are you able to take the show over for a few on your own? Are you good with that?
Well, sure.
Okay. I'll leave you to. I'll be back in about 5. All right. Apologize for putting this on you. I apologize.
No. I mean, sorry to your audience.
No, you'll be good. You'll be good. I trust in you. All right. No swearing and no drama.
No swearing, no drama. I promise.
I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
So, what should we talk about? Can't swear, no drama. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I just hope everyone's out there and seeing, and I know most of the people, watching this, they all feel the same kind of outrage. But there are things that we can do, everybody can do. And it's like, if not us, who's going to be standing up to defend, these rights? So if people can donate, obviously, donate, and every dollar counts. And, if you can't donate, there are like other things you can do. Obviously, spreading the word. If you're around, even this Gretchen Voss article, if you're in that area and someone that reads Boston Magazine, tell them about it, spreading that word. And also, like I said, me and Mary B, I think some people know, have been working on this big spreadsheet. And if anybody wants to, contribute to that or help or go through videos, just reach out to me or Mary B. And, that helps so much, not just in getting him, prepared for the trial, but on saving him money. So it's like your time is saving him money. So it's like donating money. Anyways, I was just crying about this yesterday, but just like, it's just that to think that this is happening. And one thing, I don't know how to like add the comments on the screen, but Bob, I cannot really run for governor, but I am moving back to Massachusetts. I got like the confirmation. I've been trying to move back there for over a year now. And I am, and I should be up there by August because I got the clear from the buyers of my house about closing, which will be at the end of the month. So hopefully, I want to, and BB King just mentioned, and having standouts and stuff, like that's what I want to do when I get up there. And I don't know if I showed, I have made a few of these on Vistaprint, but like they're gonna have different ones, and maybe it should be on screen now, but making these so like when people want to be able to, when we figure out which court's gonna be next, but also just having events with people and everybody coming together for little fundraisers. I know they did those like taco nights, but we need to have NanCon. But I'm excited. We need that voice. We need the Turtleboy needs Turtle Boys and Turtle Girls. and we can all come together because these are our rights. And uh, and everybody should be mad about them because who's next? You know, there's that old saying that's like, first they came for the iron workers, and I'm not an iron worker, so I stayed silent. And they came, and I'm not saying it exactly correct, but I forget what they all list. But it's like, then they came for the Jews, and I was not Jewish, so I didn't stand up, I didn't speak out. And then they came for me, and no one was left to speak for me. So we have to take that power back from the government and from these bad actors. They want silence because that's what breeds corruption. Silence needs corruption, and Aidan wasn't silenced. Wasn't silent, obviously. So they didn't like that he found out about this. He found out what they were doing. They just don't like it, and this is what happens. Like, what if who's the next person that this happens to? It's just sick, and the lengths that they'll go, especially with the new charges. It's like that's the lengths that they will go. So we as Americans have to be the ones to do it because no one else is going to stand up for him. So we're got to be standing out there with our own bullhorns, and we'll do our own rolling rallies, and because that's what this entire country is founded on. They're trying to rip those rights away from us and trying to cover up their own corruption and silence people and frame people and all these bad cops. Like, look at all the stuff that came out about it. This is just what we know. Like, this needs to be like an overhaul. And what they're doing to Aidan, can you imagine waking up every day as him? And being right now, it's like this is like all to try to get his bail revoked. For him to have to wake up every day and be dealing with this, not just financially, but emotionally, and having kids and his brothers and sisters. It's like, it's just a shame. It's a shame what they're doing. And like everybody, hope can get behind it. We'll be planning things soon. But like I said, if anybody wants to help, we going through videos, or there's some other things too, reach out, because that's just as important as donating. But if you can donate, you should donate too.
Well, great job, Mo. It looks like you're a total natural taking on a show by yourself. So it looked like you had no problem at all. We changed Mazda Media to Moza Media today. So that was a nice name change.
Yeah, I gotta get the
said there about our freedom
background. We always say Mazda is book because, well, Mary B and Will were making fun of me because I was like, I like reading. They're like, shut up, you dork.
Yep.
Oh my god, that Mazda likes books, and Mary B's like, Mazda is book.
Yeah,
you're very.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. No, I appreciate that's great. I know the term I had to have explained to me, and I think it was from what's the show they were Tina Fey, 30 Rock. It was from 30 Rock, I guess. She kept saying Maz's book. I'm like, wait, 30 Rock? I'm like, okay. I never watched that show. I think I watched 30 Rock the first time it ever aired. I watched the premiere just to kind of watch it, and I was like, this seems like it'll be a solid show, but I don't think I'll be back watching the show often. I wasn't watching a lot of TV sitcoms. Kind of got away from sitcoms over the past 20 years. So I watched a lot of sitcoms in the 90s. But after the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air went off the air, Family Matters ran its course. I watched Full House for a couple of years, which was funny. Bob Saget was a riot. And then like, okay, done with the sitcoms.
Yeah, I like Curb. Is like, I guess that's like.
Oh yes. Okay, so maybe I do. Yeah, because I watched Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Is that, I don't know if that's a good be considered a sitcom, but
yeah.
That's a good one. 30 Rock is pretty funny.
Yeah.
I used to watch. I liked The Office when The Office was on.
I never watched that. Never watched. People say, "What do you mean?" No, I never watched. I maybe watched an episode or two, but it was never my show.
Maybe one time if there's a big blizzard for a few days, you can binge some. Yeah, I don't watch TV anymore, like at all. Just like watch YouTube.
Yeah, no, I know. I watch so much more YouTube these days. It's incredible. It's like I don't even watch as many. I still watch shows, but it's mostly sports. But then I'll try to watch a show here. Like Stranger Things came out. I watched that. But yeah, I'm watching movies less. I'm watching just shows less than I was maybe a year or two ago. I think probably because a lot of it has to do with watching all these shows on YouTube. Melanie Little, all the shows that are on night after night and keeping up with the latest.
Yeah,
Karen and
there's no
Aidan
time
was
for to watch anything else anyway.
no, no.
But I got
It's like
rid
you
of
get
cable and I got YouTube TV, and it's way cheaper. And but it has all the sports, so I could watch all the World Cup games, and then it has like all premium channels, and it was like half of what I. It's so. I mean, I'm not like
wow.
working for YouTube, but it was worth it because my Xfinity cable was like way more expensive for less stuff. Didn't have all that
Yeah.
sports stuff. Didn't I had like a premium package, but it's great. So if anybody, you should try out YouTube TV. And I'm not getting paid for it.
Sarah, no, I'm never gonna watch The Real Housewives. No, that's not gonna happen. No, I'm not gonna watch those. Those shows are not for me. Like these other, like that show Love Island. I'm like not watching that. Not watching these like more like drama driven shows. That's not. You're not gonna see me watching that. It would be more like I don't know. I don't watch those shows with all the drama and the
Yeah,
chaos
my
in them.
sister used to live here. She watched them too, and I'm like, how you just? I would just, it'd be on in the background, and everyone's fighting. I'm like, how could you listen to them fight? But I don't know. I guess I mean, they're popular.
Yeah, they will. A
You
lot
could
of
always,
those shows.
watch JFK's channel. That's Real Housewives. Just kidding. Just kidding.
The Patriots training camp open today. That's awesome. Yeah, what was I gonna say? A lot of those fights are scripted on those shows too. Like if you watch any kind of like even like those local restaurant shows, they'll make a restaurant out to be a little bit more chaotic than what it really is. Like it's a floundering restaurant. We get it. Then they'll go on the show and they're pulling rats out of the walls, and it's like that's all. There's no way that was the Board of Health or something would have tagged them a long time ago. Just stop it. And you get like Gordon Ramsay or the guy from Restaurant Impossible, like, oh yeah, look at this. They got about 6 rat. You got a rat family living right in that hole right there, right behind where you guys serve your food. And it's like, that's not true. Like they're a failing restaurant. I get it, but they're not that bad. Stop it. These people are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the fights too. They're like, okay, can you do that fight again? Let's redo some of it. So they like redo, like in some of the, whatever, I guess, Housewives shows and things like that.
I used to watch, I watched The Real World very briefly. I watched a couple seasons, like, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. Yeah. And then the ones I started getting into was the ones that are hosted by that guy, TJ. I haven't watched it in a long time, but the challenge, the Real World Road World Challenge or whatever it is, like I like those. Yeah,
like I don't know if it's still, but like a couple of years ago, one of my sisters was talking about them, and I'm like, they still do Real World Road Rules Challenge. Like I remember that from so long ago. But I mean, don't know how old I am, but it's like remember the original one with Puck. It was the original.
Jeez, I remember that guy, Puck. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What the Puck? Yeah. That's what I used to call.
But I think that's kind of like what started it all. That was the first like reality shows.
That's true. I mean, yeah, it's totally innovated the game. It's MTV just changed itself too. It's just it was music television. Now it's just maybe like anything but music television. It's just MTV by name now. It's not what it used to. YouTube is more MTV now because they got you watch any single song and music video in the world's on YouTube. So you don't need MTV anymore.
Remember TRL? Like you watch?
Yeah, yeah. I used to watch that for definitely when I was a freshman in high school. Definitely when I was a freshman in high school, I used to watch that mid to late 90s, somewhere in there. Watched it for 2 years. Not every day, but I'd tune in to listen to the new songs and
but you every video, the people's videos, but like now, you'd have to go on YouTube. Like I never have seen, I love music. Sorry.
Right.
But you never know the video because MTV doesn't play it, but it's not like I really watch MTV, but it used to just be playing music and playing the music videos and
I'm going to transition us to the New Jersey situation for Aidan. That was a situation where all of a sudden all this news broke on the internet on X that there was an indictment. And it seemed like at first the way it was kind of coming off was that it was going to be something different, maybe as it even pertained to, not that it was suggested, but it was very vague when it first came out. Like Aidan's been indicted again. He's been indicted again. And it's like, okay, is this what's this about? And everything in my head was saying, I just don't believe this is McAlbert or Norfolk County related. I felt like maybe it was something different, but then it turned out it was New Jersey, and it was an incident that involved a woman that had basically been published in an article by Aidan that had previously been in communication with Paul O'Keefe. And then this all of a sudden turned out that she was now after Aidan for this. And this was something that Betterow himself came out and said the prosecutor wanted to leave this alone, but then something may have happened that led to this going over that prosecutor's head to fast track this into the narrative of, well, we're still going to pursue this case and pursue these charges, which is very, I did not expect this at all in terms of a situation that even a prosecutor, for example, I might be frozen here, but you can probably still hear me. A prosecutor himself was like, yeah, there's nothing here. But then all of a sudden there's this overreach. And it kind of seems to me, really reading Betterow's tweet that he released, that this is it's concerning to a degree that I'm actually just going to read this tweet out loud. Let's make sure everybody's caught up on this. I just want to read this whole thing. Let's get this done. I can't thank you enough for being here today, Mo, by the way. I appreciate it.
I'm humbled. It's a pleasure.
All right. So for immediate release, yesterday we were notified about an Atlantic County, New Jersey indictment of Aidan Kearney. Although this indictment remains sealed, within hours its existence was improperly leaked to third parties. This prosecution stems from a civilian complaint of a New Jersey resident who intentionally contacted Mr. Kearney, hoping that he would publicize his long-term humiliation of a Massachusetts citizen who was the brother of John O'Keefe, the victim of a high-profile Massachusetts prosecution of Karen Reed. The complainant contacted Mr. Kearney to generate online attention, hoping this would grant her access to people close to the Reed case. Mr. Kearney has never met this woman and has not stepped foot in New Jersey in years. The Atlantic County prosecutor's decision to present this matter to a grand jury is both disappointing and virtually unprecedented, as is everything in the saga. It is clear that the prosecutor has serious doubts about the merits of the case. There it says it right there. Again, the prosecutor has serious doubts about the merits of the case and the credibility of the evidence. The indictment follows the complainant's voluntary withdrawal of a civil proceeding she brought against Mr. Kearney. She chose to terminate that proceeding rather than be subjected to cross-examination after a respected Superior Court judge entered critical rulings in favor of Mr. Kearney's right to free speech. After the civil matter concluded in Mr. Kearney's favor, the prosecutor sat on this civilian complaint for 7 months. Again, the prosecutor sat on this for 7 months. On January 7, 2026, the assigned prosecutor advised us that she had determined this matter would not be presented to a grand jury, and a decision was forthcoming about whether the civilian complaint would be dismissed or remanded to the municipal court. Within minutes of this update, the assigned prosecutor reversed course, now informing us that she had been directed to immediately present the matter to the grand jury. She then declined our request to meet with Atlantic County Prosecutor William Reynolds. She further declined our request that Mr. Kearney would be afforded the opportunity to testify as a witness before the grand jury. No citizen should be indicted for speaking freely and expressing his or her opinion about matters of public concern. A grand jury is entirely controlled by a prosecutor. It is a one-sided presentation with a low burden of proof. We are confident that when all of the facts and circumstances surrounding Mr. Kearney's indictment are revealed, it will be apparent to any reasonable person that his speech, which serves as the basis for this indictment, is protected by the First Amendment and New Jersey law, and that he has not violated New Jersey's cyber harassment statute, signed by attorneys for Aidan Kearney, Mark Betterow, Linda Kenny Biden, I always say her name wrong, Biden, and Darren Gelber. Very, very interesting stuff there. What was your reaction to all of this? I'm not sure if that was presenting.
Just like it's like you shouldn't be shocked at the lengths that they'll go. But I just it just was like, that's why I'm just sad about it, because it's just sad that this is how far that they'll take it, and it's gross to me. It's just it's I don't know, and everybody, I don't know if y'all haven't followed what happened with that story, and the text messages, and her, these how she was talking to Aidan behind the scenes. It's like she's sick. Like, this is a sick woman, and uh, especially, like, okay, you have everybody can have their thoughts on Paul O'Keefe, right? And but this is a man that his brother is died. His sisters have passed away years ago, and you're like, so I don't know. It's like so manipulative, and kind of feeding off something when someone's vulnerable. Like, he's obviously in a vulnerable state at that point. As much as everyone's like, okay, he's an asshole, but still, just that woman that you're going in there. That he's in their court. He's there, like he's. And I don't care about who's being unfaithful or anything like that. I just it's just gross to me. And then I don't even get what made her so mad. Like, Aidan just stopped, didn't want to converse with her anymore. It's like, what were you trying to do? Is it all for attention? And then the fact that she goes to that, that, I don't know what they call it there, was restraining order, protective order, that she wanted to get. And she's literally on the stand and is like, whoopsie, like, I'm not afraid. I actually, no, never mind. And then it all comes back that she's like, but if we looking back in hindsight, you see back in December or whatever, that it's she's working with another state, like, so, like, with the Massachusetts, like, so whether it was strategic at that time for her to just on the stand drop it, or afterwards, and it's like, oh, don't worry, we'll get them on these other charges. I mean, it's like what that Chris Albert and Jen McCabe, all before their witness intimidation, they went to go get protective orders against Aidan, and those judges are like, no, because he's like exercising his free speech, so we're not granting him. So it's like, okay, they couldn't get that. They couldn't, and Proctor, eventually being like, well, can we arrest him for something? They're like, we'll get you on this witness intimidation statute. And it's the same type of thing. It's like, she didn't get this order. And if that, if the things that she has to prove, or the state has to prove in the cyber harassment statute, it's like, I mean, there's a lot of emotional things in these statutes now that's like, you made me sad, which is just very subjective and very broad, but it's like, all right, we can get her under this new cyber harassing, we'll get them under this one too. And I think there obviously is a strategy and communication with Massachusetts, and that just shows you how far they'll go. And it's like, this is, I don't know, it's gross to me. It like makes me want to cry. And it's I believe that this is just, they want to revoke his bail, and that's why
I know this woman. Yeah, and the thing that was concerning to me too, in terms of his bail revocation, was what happened in December. After the initial arrest in October, it seemed like it seemed to me like they were laying the foundation for later. They probably knew, like, okay, if we arrest him for the first time today in October 2023, that we know we're not going to be able to probably keep him. But if we get him, basically in today, we can later come back and get him in jail at a later time. And I think that's kind of what it was. They knew it was going to be more than a one-step process, and that's exactly what they executed. And I think that they wanted to do that again too, by trying to get him.
When they added on the window intimidation in 2025, They tried to revoke his bail then because he's good. They're adding on this new indictment for I mean, the stupidest thing. Looking into a camera outside, like it's just two
Yeah.
guys like being silly, doing dinosaur arms. Like, what? It's just that's that, So those two new charges, then they tried. So, but maybe that's hope because he didn't get his bail revoked. But and that was additional indictments. So it'll be up to the Commonwealth or Causey to see if they're going to move to revoke it again, this time. But it's just sad. And it's like, well, right before his trial, like, why are you doing this? Like, so that's what makes me so emotional about it. It's like, this, how can this happen in our country? How can this happen in our democratic free society with a Bill of Rights? How can, and it's not just the First Amendment, it's the Fourth Amendment, it's the Sixth Amendment. It's like, there's a lot of, I just, it's very frustrating and infuriating, and that's why we need everybody to, keep up the fight and fight for this, because this is, it's sick.
What's interesting to me too is the timing of the trial. The trial is scheduled for December. Now, the election for the new Norfolk County DA is in November. However, when you win an election, you do not take office until January. And now all of a sudden you have a trial that is right in between those two periods. And I find that extremely interesting because I keep saying to myself, like my theory was like, if I'm Aidan's defense, I would try to push this thing out another month, but I don't know if it's going to be possible. And I don't know if they're going to go with that strategy. But if say like Deitch won and then you push it back, maybe you'd have to push it back 2 months into February, but neither here nor there. But overall, it's just interesting that they've pushed that trial back to the very last month before the transitioning of a new DA. Even if it was Greg Connor, it's still the last month, very last month of his term, last full month of his term, before there's a transition of a new DA, regardless of who's elected. And I find that extremely strategical by Norfolk County, the Norfolk County DA's office. And I'm not sure if that was all done in collaboration with whomever, whatever the parties that may be out there, prosecutor's office up to, including to the judge. I don't know, but it just seems very, very fitting from the Commonwealth's perspective that they, because the thing is, if Aidan Deitch won, and then Aidan went to trial in December, and let's just say Aidan gets dinged on a trial and it carries some prison time for, let's just say 5 to 10 years. He goes to jail or prison, whatever, for whatever time. He's still in there up until Adam Deitch got in there and was able to maybe work some magic and work some moves. That's what I find troublesome about all of this, is that because if this trial was taking place after the new DA was in, a new DA could just come in and say, okay, we're going to drop the charges, but they're having this held before a new DA can come in. So again, I think Aidan will be acquitted of every single charge, but there's always that fine line there. And some people have that theory where you might get, he might get dinged on one, perhaps. We'll see. But if that happens, that even if Deitch wins, let's say Aidan, the verdict comes in on December 20th. And let's say Deitch is not in office if he won until January 20th. Well, Aidan's spending Christmas and all this stuff in prison, which is very alarming because, again, I mean, I guess to their credit, to the prosecution's credit, I guess they probably could have made it earlier. But I think the thing about that, I'll try to keep you brief here because I want to get you talking again. Apologize for talking so long here. Is I think that they know that because here's the thing. If they believe that they were going to convict them on any of these charges, it's my argument I made about Karen Reed earlier. Why not just have this trial a year ago? Why not just fast track this thing on trial a year ago, get the conviction, get Aidan Kearney in prison, and it's game over for him? I'm thinking from their perspective. If they had enough facts, if they truly believed they had enough facts on their side to convict them, they could have done this a year ago and Aidan would be spending the whole year in prison and beyond until maybe say Deitch got elected. But it tells me that they're waiting to the last month is that they don't have the facts. And I think they don't believe they have the information to present to a jury that's going to win to the jury. And even if they maybe do have what they think is maybe this much, it's small at best. It's a percentile, it's a fraction of error that, or a fraction of a chance that they think they can actually get a jury to convict them on any one of those charges. So it tells me the DA's office has extremely low confidence in the ability to convict Aidan Kearney. And it tells me that they wanted to push this right to the end of that term as much as possible for Michael Morrissey. So that way, it's just basically what it's always been. This goes back to my theory on why has this taken so many years to do? Why has this been elongated for so long? And that's just my point, because now you're actually seeing the trial set for the last full month of Michael Morrissey's term. I'll let you speak to that. That was all over
Well,
the
yeah,
place.
even the, mega motion hearing, it's like, all right, under Biden now, can we get these dates locked down? Like, when are we doing this? When are we doing limnies? When are we doing this? And I think the judge even mentioned too about, well, one thing that the judge, when he was talking about, because they, you every state they rotate. You don't rotate like they do in Massachusetts and Florida, but you move to different courts. So apparently he's moved, that judge is moving in January, I guess, also, like, so when, or moving courtrooms or whatever. But yeah, you could see that they did spend a lot of that hearing on, like, let's get these things scheduled now for the end, before the end of the year. But and I imagine that the same grace, I don't know if you'd call it grace, but that they give to the Commonwealth for discovery and pushing things back. If the Aidan's attorneys, ask for a brief extension until like January, are they going to get one? Are they going to get the same treatment that, they let, they give to Causey and to the Commonwealth? It's like, it's just so, those scales of justice, it just seems like, they really are, it's not just like, oh, putting your finger on the scale. This is like, they are dumping weights, they're dumping bricks on this, on the other side. And
Yeah.
and that's not, that should not be our criminal justice system. It's terrible.
What do you think about Adam Deitch's chances to win? I feel like I'm just concerned that Greg Connor, this has been discussed by other people before. I've heard Aidan even say this and a few others, and they're right about this. There in politics, there's a such thing as, like I think of Ted Kennedy, and this is not for Ted Kennedy or against Ted Kennedy, but Ted Kennedy was someone that usually ran unopposed because he was someone that, no one was going to knock out of office. He was a very well established, fortified candidate or politician in the state of Massachusetts. And a lot of times you see that in different states, like a John McCain, Republican Party, in Arizona. A lot of times would run unopposed because nobody was going to be able to beat him. Because there's a thing as such thing as establishment candidates, where no matter who comes against them, who runs against them, even if they're not that exact candidate, but someone maybe that candidate that's an establishment candidate endorses, a lot of times those candidates tend to carry those votes for the most part. And Adam Deitch is kind of coming in as the anti-establishment, while at the same time facing some competition from people that are free Karen Reed. That there are free Karen Reed people that want to vote for Adam Deitch, but there are also notable free Karen Reed people that have decided that DeWanna Perkins would be the best candidate for themselves, which I think when you're up against an establishment candidate like Greg Connor, the worst thing that can happen for you is that you have, say, for example, a free Karen Reed movement with a difference of ideologies that they might split their votes. This is similar to the George Bush versus Bill Clinton versus Ross Perot presidential election in 1992.
That's what I was just going to say.
Right. Right. So again, I think if you want to be the free Karen Reed candidate, the worst thing that can happen to you is that the free Karen Reed voters may have a difference of ideology in terms of who they're going to vote for. And you might have a good percentage of people actually voting for DeWanna Perkins, which again, If you say you lose by your Deitch and you lose by 2% or 3%, and then someone like DeWanna Perkins, for example, maybe has like 8 to 20% of the vote, those percentage points are huge in an election, if not damning, or vice
Yeah, and if
versa.
it wasn't for Perkins wasn't get all those votes, like if Perkins dropped out,
Yep.
then those votes aren't going to go to Connor. You would think they're going to go
Right.
to Deitch. So it's like it's just I mean, and like you said, I mean that's the whole thing with any independent candidates, third party candidates, etc. That's always, if they're on this side, they're actually taking votes away from someone else, and I am concerned. So I grew up in Plymouth County, but my parents live in Norfolk County now. Most of my family's in Norfolk, Suffolk, and Plymouth. But I'm asking my parents. I'm like, so like, because I got the Deitch signs, and like, what do you see out there, like on the streets? Like, are people? And he's like, I don't see anybody having any signs. I don't think like anyone even
Yeah.
like. So and that just like you said, the establishment, and the unions that are behind them, and when you have and there are people they don't as crazy as it sounds, like they don't even know about, they're not still following even the Karen Reed case anymore, or this. It's like after the second trial ended with Karen, they're kind of like, okay. I mean, and then maybe they read the newspaper, which is like, basically Gretchen Voss for Greg Connor for the DA, essentially.
Yeah.
That was like a Deitch hit piece, and I mean, a lot of issues that I had with that article, but uh, I am concerned, and like that's another thing that we need to do is like get people out to vote, and maybe get Dwana out to. I don't know how you would do that, but if she really cared about this, like, can you just back down and like, but the same powers that be that didn't want Aidan talking about it, they don't want Deitch, so it's like that deep-seated establishment government that is so corrupt to the core. They will do anything to not get Deitch elected.
That's a fact. And the thing is too, like, I've always said this too. Sometimes primary elections, especially in presidential elections, sometimes the hardest part is to get out of the primaries. I remember there was a year, it was like Mitt Romney, Mike Huckabee, John McCain, all head to head, and I think there were two other candidates that ran. And then there was a year where it was Bill Clinton, excuse me, not Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And I think Joe Biden stepped out of that. And those primaries can be, it's really like, it's because a lot of times you have people that, they'll go on to vote for, I'm thinking 2008, 2008 was an non-incumbent election where, Bush had left office. Now we were seeking a new president, and everybody on both parties was really vying for a spot. You had people like John McCain and Hillary Clinton, who were notable names. You had Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, who were really trying to make names for themselves at that point. And you had a lot of splitting of votes where, Hillary Clinton seemed like the front runner, but then Barack Obama overtook her. But then on the Republican side, guys like Mike Huckabee and Mitt Romney challenged John McCain, who was the most known, but then John McCain won out. So it's very interesting in primaries because a lot of times you have candidates that, like Hillary Clinton, lost to Obama in the '08 primary, returned in 2016, ran for president. Mitt Romney lost to McCain in '08, came back in 2012. Both Romney and Hillary Clinton lost in 2012, 2016, respectfully, but they, it's a challenge to get through there. It really is a dogfight to get through the primaries. And then you have a lot of people on stage with you, and you're looking to your left and your right, and there's 10 people. And a lot of times the voters are like, well, maybe these three candidates of these 8 or 10, might be who I want. But at the same time, if people are split between, say, like the number 2 through number 5 candidates, but then that number 1 candidate has their strong vote outpouring still, they're not as often affected by, the number 2 and 5 people who are battling for, people are like, oh, I'm going to vote for this candidate or that candidate. um, which is very interesting. And in politics at any level, is that these primaries can be hard because a lot of times people don't back down from the primaries until, especially with presidential primaries, you'll have candidates compete. And then after a while, like especially in '08, it's down to Hillary and Obama for 2 or 3 months. And there was 5 or 6 to 10 candidates in the early primaries. And then it just dwindles right down. And now it's a two-person race. That's the way it goes a lot. But then in this, it's like there's no like state by state primary that's going on. So it's a straight up one election. None of these candidates are going to say, "Well, I have no path forward. I'm going to drop out." They're all saying, "Well, I'm here for this one particular race." So it is a different species than, say, a presidential Democratic or Republican presidential primary, which I think is going to be very intriguing because, again, my biggest concern is establishment votes for Greg Conner, where you have your Michael Morrissey. Like people might say, well, the Greg Conner signs are not really out there, but a lot of times establishment candidates don't always have those signs out there across people's front lawns because they're not having to campaign as much, which is an alarm for me. Just my thoughts on
And like I think the other thing too is like I'm typically vote Democrat. I mean your DA is not supposed to be leaning any politically either way, but like I think one of the challenges is that people think of it as this is the liberal candidate, this is the Democratic candidate, and it's like all the liberals like Morrissey and Connor, and that's the other, but it isn't that because I obviously am not a. I agree with that, Maza
that. All right.
for president.
Yeah.
We need to make those shirts, Maza.
Exactly.
But it's not because just Democrats and liberals also want to vote Dice. So once we make it divisive like that, people are going to think like, well, I'm Democrat, so I'm going to vote for for Greg Conner. I think it's. I mean, I don't know how you get rid of that people thinking that way, but I wish you could because this is not having to do with Democrat or liberal. I mean, Democrat or Republican, and that everybody, whether you're Republican or Democrat, should be outraged at what's happening in the, in the DA's office and want this to change. By pointing out this is even by saying, and I see people in the chat, they're like, well, it's the Democrats' fault. Keeping that narrative out there that this is this is because of Democrats. That's why you have people just voting. They're going to think, okay, this is a Democratic candidate, and I don't really know anything about it. And this guy, but everyone says he's the Democrat one, and I'm a Democrat. So we can't keep thinking like that because I know a lot of Democrats that I think Michael Morrissey is obviously, well, not obviously, but he has a lot of disdain towards him, and I think otherwise, like people just don't know. They just go with what they know, and it's not really I don't know.
I mean, if Adam Deitch wins, again, the path forward is unknown. I think it's going to really depend on a voter turnout that is not even maybe a voter turnout, but a concentrated vote for people that maybe have significantly changed their ideologies over the last couple of years. It's going to really depend a lot on people in that county that have said, I've seen what's gone on. I've heard of these stories. I don't like the direction Norfolk County is going. And, now I think, they'd have to be aware. They'd have to be aware that Greg Conner is basically a Michael Morrissey. He's from that same, really that group, that establishment, and have to be aware that, okay, if I vote for Greg Conner, I'm voting for, again, he'll be slightly different.
He's like his number two.
Right.
That's just more. That's the exact same thing, and the exact same group that decided we're just not even going to investigate Sandy Birchmore. The same group that that just so many things that you could go into. That is who it is. But I mean, back to your original question, like, yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that Greg Conner is going to win. So, and there you could go on his website too, because they have, if people, you can sign up to like even make calls, and they'll give you like a the kind of the points that they want to get across. You can request to have signs sent. So getting out the word on that. And anybody that knows people in Norfolk County, talk to your friends there, your cousins, whoever. And a lot of people don't vote in things like this. So it's even just getting the people to go out, go to vote. People don't even vote in the presidential election. So it's like that's one thing people like, getting people out to vote too. And so I would recommend anybody checking that out on the website. And there's a couple different ways that you can, besides just donating, that you could do other things that don't cost you money, just cost you a little bit of your time, and are helpful. Like I have a lot of family that's in Quincy and Weymouth, and Quincy is like the biggest town. And that's also where Morrissey is from. That's where Bev's from. It's like, it's very, so those areas are like really, I don't know. Someone was saying that they have been seeing Dyke signs out. So maybe it's getting
Right.
better out there, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think their campaign's been strong. I think the thing is too, is that, campaigns run on money, and ultimately you only get so much of it, and you can only, do as much as you possibly can. And I think a lot of it is really the people that can, get the signs out on their lawn, present their political ideology for how they see this race going, coming up very quickly here. And again, I think it's really, a lot of it's going to depend on, I think, awareness of people that are aware of, are you happy with the way things have gone the past few years in Norfolk County? What are your opinions on the Karen Reed case? But again, if there's a level of negligence where you have people that maybe don't pay attention to the story and they just show up to vote, how are they voting? So it's gonna go in a lot of different ways. But I'll tell you right now, if Adam Deitch wins, I'm gonna be extremely excited for him. Obviously, I'm endorsing him as the candidate for DA without question. I think the only choice for me, the only clear choice is a candidate that is absolutely certain that they're a Karen Reed supporter, and that they're against what Michael Morrissey's office has done. I think at this particular point in time, that's the only candidate you can vote for. I think you're voting for a DA. You're not voting for someone that's running for governor or senator. This is not someone that's going to dictate how things go in your state. That's going to approve funding or anything like that. They're not going to affect your taxes. You're voting for somebody that's a district attorney that's going to, decide what cases they prosecute, what cases they do not prosecute. And that's the difference. And I think overall, when it comes to that, who's the candidate that is going to say what happened to Karen Reed or Sandra Birchmore, Aidan Kearney, will not be tolerated. We're not going to stand by and watch these things happen in our county. We're gonna be more effective with who we prosecute. And if we are prosecuting someone, we're going to make sure that we truly believe this person has violated a crime. This person should be on trial, and this person belongs behind bars, and not someone like Karen Reed, who clearly didn't do it, and not only went through one trial, but then you have a second trial where DA Michael Morrissey goes out, asks for additional funding to hire Hank Brennan and have additional money to retry this trial, and basically run $1 million of taxpayer money, including all the money they owe to the state police for security in the area. And this has been financially and fiscally a disastrous decision when this kind of money is being used on a trial that both times did not conclude with a conviction of the person who they were prosecuting. And I think that's absolutely outrageous. And I think if you're a voter, you should be outraged about that. And you should be concerned about how your money is being spent in your state or your county, even from the state. And that's a big concern for me, and more so people, I should say, in Norfolk County. And if they're not aware of that, I pray that they are, and I pray that people are spreading as much awareness as they possibly can over that county, not just in the, Canton, Dedham circle, but also, as we've talked about, other towns as well, which might have voter turnout that can impact who wins.
Yeah, like is this what you want to spend your money on? That's what I always would say to my friends. I'm like, it's like, aren't taxpayers just infuriated that like this is where your money is going, instead of like the simple, the potholes or whatever else, like other things, whatever, government buildings or parks or whatever else it may be. It's like, no, they're stealing millions of dollars. They're spending with this, and it was like, Adam was the only one who, in those the interviews that they did, that said, like, yeah, I wouldn't have charged her because there wasn't enough, at that time you say, well, you got to keep investigating and figure out, and even I forgot exactly what Perkins said, but it was something like she was overcharged or something. It's like, well, it's like, so you would have had this little evidence. I mean, but even at that time, like knowing what the tail, it's like, how could you think that how could you any reasonable person, never mind a reasonable prosecutor who's like held to a higher standard because you know the law and you know what you need to prove, could think at that point that you could charge her with, death at all. So the only person that was like, no, and isn't that who you want? You don't want them just spending your tax money and charging people with crimes with when the police haven't even investigated. They didn't even go in the house. It's like, it's just insane. So I just really, really hope that everybody sees that and gets out to vote, and it will just be, it'll be sad if Connor wins.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're registered to vote, I think the registration deadline, I don't know when it is, but if it hasn't already come and gone, it might be, I think it's usually up to like August, I think. So people, if you haven't registered to vote, you live in Norfolk County, you have a vested interest in how your county is. If you're not already registered, register, get out there, cast your vote. My endorsements, Adam Deitch all the way. That's where I'd vote if I lived in that county. But that's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. Well, I'm going to leave you with final thoughts, just your final thoughts today. We're going to wrap up today's show as we've just hit the 2-hour mark. And first of all, I just want to thank you for joining the show. We were working on it for 2 or 3 weeks, I think, and we had to kind of restructure last weekend.
All the house stuff, I've had a great, but now we're all done with that. I mean,
right.
Absent any hiccups before the end of the month, but my final thoughts are like, we need to keep this. Everybody needs to be loud. We have their voices loud for Deitch and for Aidan and Karen too, because she's being dragged through this too. Imagine her going through this 2 murder trials when you're sitting there and people are framing you for something, and like you're still dealing with this. You're still trying to get back your phone. You still have, and then you have this defamation suit. It's just crazy. So we need to, as a people, be loud and don't give up this fight. And we need to stand up for the First Amendment and do whatever you can. Don't shut up about this. Don't stop talking about it. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, post it on social media. Donate if you can. Reach out to me, Mary B. Help behind the scenes. Just do something, because if we don't do it, no one's going to do it. We have to do it. This is what makes America America. So I just plead to everyone to not be quiet, be loud, and tell others this is how important this is to just our foundation, of our country. So that'd be my final thought.
Awesome, Mo. I can't thank you enough for joining today's show. I appreciate you coming on, and can't thank you enough. Appreciate your thoughts on a multitude of things today, and I wish you the best for the rest of today. And I don't know if you're like me and you're going to get out there and enjoy the weather in a little bit, but enjoy your Saturday.
You too. Thank you, Maza. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Mo, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow her on Twitter. Joining today's show, and that's it. Hey, Mazza in 1080p today, new camera, rocking the new camera. I'm back tomorrow at 12 p.m. We're going to talk about Gretchen Voss and her article about Karen Reed tomorrow. So we'll be talking about that. So be sure to like this channel, subscribe to this channel, and be back here at 12 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to talk about Gretchen Voss's article and go over that whole thing. So I'm going to go get things going right now. I got some things I got to do. I start by eating a salad in just a couple minutes. I'd like to thank Deanna, who sent a Cash App and said, love the G's. I don't know what that means, love the G's. Love the gangsters, maybe. Thank you for that. Just a thank you again to BB King for your super chat. Thank you to Phil for the 400 Joules gift here. Thank you. Thank you to LA Times 4. And thank you to Bob Is My Name. For your super chats today. Do appreciate that. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you to everybody that commented. Thank you to everybody that liked. Thank you to everybody that subscribed. And thank you to everybody that's continuing to fight for justice. I hope you guys are blessed and have a wonderful day. For Mazda Media, I am Mark, now in 1080p HD. Have a great afternoon, but guys, take care of yourself.